Now we come to the most important part. So classify tea by fermentation. Another word for fermentation is oxidation. So there are 4 levels. The first one is non-fermented tea. The second one is partially fermented tea. The third one is fully fermented tea. The fourth one is post-fermented tea. So what does that mean? Post means after. I will explain later. So let's talk about non-fermented tea. So it is also called green tea. So green tea is non-fermentation. So what does that mean? When you see the color, it's the lightest. Like it offers very rich flavor. And partially fermented tea, like white tea, the yellow tea, oolong, so they belong to partially fermented tea. And fully fermented tea, black tea. And post-fermented tea, pu'er, because it belongs to dark tea, like 六宝茶 and 千两茶, okay? So fermentation degree changes aroma, flavor, and the storage potential. So when we talk about storage, we have to refer to pu'er. So let me explain that later. Non-fermented tea. So let's explore more about green tea. So the example of green tea, I will tell you later, but let's learn important feature first. It's really fresh green tea. And light, grassy. Do you remember I said grassy? Because the fermentation degree is lower. The grassy, like a grass. Grass aroma is more obvious, okay? And you will feel really reflection, just like right fresh from the nature. So the example is Longjing. As we know, Longjing originally is from where? Hangzhou. Hangzhou, Longjing is super famous. Longjing only picked by the tip. So it's like tiny little bud, tiny little bud. So when you make Longjing, you will see so many little buds, floating in the hot water. So Longjing. But in Taiwan, we have Longjing too. Longjing, and another example is Biluocun. Biluocun in Taiwan, Sanxia, that is the only place where people produce Longjing and Biluocun. Their flavor is totally different from Longjing and Biluocun from mainland China. But I think that's distinctive, and then the aroma and the flavors are really good. The next example is Houkui. Houkui, also called monkey tea. You know why? Because Houkui is picked by monkeys, not by humans, by monkeys. So that's the reason why Houkui got the name monkey tea. So Houkui from Anhui, so we say Anhui Houkui. And that is really rare. You don't get a chance to drink it, but it is really interesting. It has orchid flower, orchid flower in there. So if you got a chance, don't miss Houkui, try it. And then matcha and senja. So those are 2 kinds of Japanese green tea. As we talked about Japanese tea culture in Module 2, we already introduced these 2 kinds of Japanese tea. So the picture is for you to refresh and then review what you learned about non-fermented, green tea, Longjing, Biluocun, matcha, and senja. So you can just quickly review that by yourself. The next one I want to talk about is partially fermented tea. We call oolong. So oolong is a big umbrella. We say umbrella terminology for partially fermented tea. But another 2 kinds, for example, slightly fermented tea, white tea, and then a minimum fermented tea, white tea, and then slightly fermented tea, white tea. As I told you, these 2 kinds of tea are really limited. You don't get to see them often. But I think the fundamental knowledge is helpful. And the important features, they are very smooth and then mellow taste. A little bit like somewhere between grass and very light flower smell. And the next one is oolong. Oolong, the aroma is between light flower, floral flower fragrance until fruity aroma. Fruity, like honey or melon, that kind of fragrance. example of oolong. Number one, oolong tea. We produce a lot of oolong tea in Taiwan, and the quality is really good, like Alishan oolong, or Sanlingxi, or Lishan Dayuling. So those are famous high mountain oolong tea. And the picture, as you can see from the slide, with flowers, that is the oolong plantation in Ali Mountain. I took it this year, I think in the winter time. I went there with family and friends. So we enjoy the cups of tea and then looking over the beautiful scenery with oolong plantation and beautiful flower blossom. So that is really nice. And another example is Oriental Beauty. I will talk about that later. And rock tea from Fujian. Rock tea is one of the most complicated tea in addition to pu'er. So if you got a chance to drink rock tea like Da Hong Pao, try it. Da Hong Pao is an umbrella terminology too, like oolong. So it has so many different subdivisions. So you can explore like Sui Xian, or there are so many famous places in Wuyishan, Wuyi Mountain. So they produce high quality rock tea. And another one is Tie Guan Yin. So that is example. So Tie Guan Yin, Anxi Tie Guan Yin, is from Fujian. And in Taiwan, we also produce Tie Guan Yin. That is from Muzha. So Muzha is the only place where you can try Tie Guan Yin. And nowadays, for the past 10 years, in the high mountain areas like Alishan, or even higher than 1,000 meters high, people started to grow, Tie Guan Yin. They call that high mountain Tie Guan Yin, so Gaoshan Tie Guan Yin. You can try it. It has very different flavor from the traditional Tie Guan Yin. So try it if you got a chance. So Oriental Beauty, unique summer oolong. So as you can see from the picture, some tiny little green insect on top of the leaf, it is called 绿橙子. That is the insect in the summertime. So they will bite up the tea leaves, oolong tea leaves, and the farmers will be patiently waiting for insects to bite up tea leaves. And after them, so farmers will make the tea, because there is a very interesting chemical change between the tea insects and the tea processing. It turns out very sweet and honey flavor, and with fruity smell. So as you can see from the white part on the dry leaf, that is the saliva, from the insects. So Oriental Beauty is a very unique summer oolong. That is because of the insects. And the next one I want to talk about is fully fermented black tea. So black tea has so many examples, like Darjeeling, and then Lepsang Souchong, Earl Grey, Kenya, English breakfast. English breakfast belongs to blended black tea. So when I say blended, there are two kinds of black tea. One is a single origin, and then the other one is blended. I think I mentioned about this in Module 2, British tea culture. So for English breakfast, it's a blended tea. And for Earl Grey, it is also another example of blended black tea. So the combination is Assam with bergamot. So bergamot belongs to citrus. So Earl Grey has a very interesting orange, flavor. Some people really love it. Now let's talk about post-fermented dark tea. So pu'er is most famous examples for dark tea. So for sheng pu'er, raw pu'er, you have to wait until it becomes more mature. So it will age over time, and it's rich. It has woody and earthy flavor, special value. A lot of pu'er lovers collect pu'er tea because you have to patiently wait for raw pu'er to become mature. When it is made, it's like green tea. And then little by little, it keeps fermenting. So over time, the color of the tea becomes darker and darker until it is brown or even dark. So dark tea is the reason why they call that dark tea, because eventually, once it matures, like 60 years or 70 years or even 100 years, the color becomes dark. But be careful. Dark, it's okay, but it needs to, the color of the tea needs to be bright and transparent, even it is dark. Let's have a quick summary about classification of tea. So tea can be classified by what? Number one, color. So it has 6 colors, including white, yellow, and then what else? Green. Green is the first. And oolong, and black tea, dark tea. So in terms of color, 6 different kinds. Tea can be classified by seasons, 4 seasons. So this is easy. So spring, best quality, and then summer, some tea like Oriental Beauty is harvested in summertime, and autumn and winter. So winter oolong in Taiwan, that is example. Next one, classify tea by fermentation. Do you still remember how many fermentation degrees? 4. The first one is non-fermented tea, green tea. And the second one is partially fermented, for example, like oolong or tie guan yin or rock tea. And the third one, fully fermented tea, black tea. The fourth one is post-fermented tea. As I mentioned, post-fermented tea, like, when it is made, it is like green tea, and the color is really light. And over time, little by little, the more you wait, the longer time you have, the color will be darker and the fermentation will be darker. So the flavor, aroma will change from grass. Gradually, it changes into like flower and then fruit until like wood. So that is the development belong to post-fermented tea. So I hope you enjoy the module today. Thank you very much for listening.